Tucker Carlson is speaking out. He's been interviewed on a few shows where he's now revealed why he was fired. Here he is talking to Rosanne Barr about it.
Well, it's just, yeah.
You felt, remember I sent you that video when you got fired about, it was you and it was a guy with your head, but he was tap dancing and he was getting thrown out and then he starts flying. Remember that? Do you feel like you're flying?
Well, I was not surprised. Of course I was surprised. I didn't expect to get, my show canceled Monday morning, but I wasn't, if I took 3 steps back, I was not surprised at all. First of all, television's like that. People get fired. There are all kinds of lines that no one will explain explicitly. I'm a very literal person, so I would totally happy if, if I'm knowledge that I would always say, just write it down for me. Yeah. Oh, I can't say, can you just send me a text. I've got a bad memory.
Yeah. That's what I say too.
Oh, I can't be conservative on a conservative TV channel. Just write that down for me, if you would, just so I can have it as a reference point. Oh, well, the lines. No, I really don't, because I'm kind of stupid. So if you could just, so I knew on a gut level, I knew, they were very nice to me. I should say that and be clear about it. They were very nice to me the entire time I was there, but I could feel that they strongly disagreed in the war in Ukraine stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's what it was?
I don't know. I'm just speculating, but they really didn't like that at all. The January 6th stuff, they really didn't like.
That.
We had a bunch of people quit over that, and mostly I would say mediocre. Like Chris Wallace should not be on television, or Jonah Goldberg, or so. You know what I mean? These are people who obviously the audience hated and shouldn't have been there in the first place. But they were so outraged because I said, it seems like there are probably a lot of feds in the crowd on January 6th. And now it turns out, of course, there were way more even than I imagined. The whole thing was a complete setup.
Yeah.
The whole thing was a lie, and it was used to put people in prison for expressing their constitutionally protected rights.
A 3-time Purple Heart winner.
Oh, I know.
So there he is. So it turns out he hasn't really ever been told exactly why he was fired, or at least if he was told, he's not really revealing it to us. He goes a little bit deeper into what may or may not have happened. He goes a little bit deeper into that when he was on the All In podcast. Check this out.
I don't know why I was fired. It kind of is an Agatha Christie story. There are like so many suspects. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I was never told. I can only speculate. There were a lot of different things going on. I had a lot of opinions that were unpopular, with people who might have influenced my show getting canceled. So I really don't know. I will say, right after it happened, people said, well, how can they fire the top guy? And because that's what it is. I'm certainly not the first high-rated host to get fired. It's not only about ratings. There are a lot of different factors. It's a big company. You all have worked for and run big companies, and there's a lot of complicated stuff going on. And it's never exactly clear, why things happen the way they do. But I was not shocked by it. I was shocked by it in a short-term sense. I didn't expect to have my show canceled that morning. But I was not shocked at all when I thought about it for a minute. I'd expected that. You can't kind of give the finger to everybody and persist in a corporate job. So no hard feelings. And in fact, I said that on the call when I received the news. It's not my company. And I never felt like I had a right to be on the air. I was working at the pleasure of the family that runs the company, who treated me very well, and they wanted me off, and so I was off.
Did you ever have moments where somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, advertiser XYZ is getting uncomfortable, or we're trying to land this new advertiser and they want you to shape things in one route? Did you ever feel that pressure? Is that just a thing that is kind of like a boogeyman that doesn't actually exist?
Oh, it not only exists, it defines news coverage, especially on pharma. Because pharma is the biggest advertiser in television, as I know you know. And so for sure, if, Pfizer is sponsoring your show, you're not going to question the facts. it's kind of that simple. So absolutely. And of course, that's why they're the biggest advertiser, so they can shape news coverage. that's the point. But I personally never had a single person say to me, don't say this, that I recall. I haven't thought about it too much, but that certainly, I was there 14 years and I didn't have that experience regularly or at all, really, that I can remember. And I think, my producers may have been told that, but it didn't ever get to me because I was always really clear, which is, I always said out loud to the supervisors there, I work for your company. I don't own this network. All I can control is what I say. If you don't like what I say, don't have me on TV.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this is I think that there is this idea that people in media are told what to say. And there are probably some instances of that, but I've been in media my whole career, from radio broadcasting to now this to working on the Hill, and I have never been told what to say. When there was a lot of chatter there has been for a long time about this idea that people are told, that news people or that talkers are told what to say. And I have always pushed back on that and said, no, that's not how they control the narrative. The way they control the narrative is they just don't have you on. If they don't like what you're saying, they just don't hire you, or they fire you, or they find people who say the things already naturally who that they once said. So these guys in suits running these media empires, they know how audiences work. They spend millions upon millions of dollars studying audiences, and they know that the one thing audiences love is genuine and authenticity from the person that they're listening to. They don't want somebody who's fake and just reading lines. Now, of course, that exists, and of course, there are people that just read lines, and then there's and that is coming from the higher ups, and they're kind of the teleprompter readers the entire time, but talkers who give their opinions, I have yet to see a talker being told what to say. What happens is they just get fired, and these big wigs know to hire people that just share the sentiments of what they want shared authentically. So if they want coverage that is pro-war in Ukraine, they just ensure that the people they put in front of audiences are genuinely pro the war in Ukraine. And that way the audience doesn't feel like, oh, I'm listening to somebody who, they're not genuine. They're just saying this for the money. Now, of course, these companies, they will let you know who their advertisers are. They do let you know where the advertisers may stand on certain issues. You might realize that that may mean that the advertiser doesn't want to advertise on your show. You might then modify or edit the things you say in order to cater to that particular advertiser. I mean, I'm sure that stuff happens. But I just found this particularly interesting because, from my experience, it's just that they hire people who they like the viewpoint that they're spewing, and they cater their coverage depending on the lean of the outlet to a certain audience, and they just ensure that the people they hire also share the sentiments of the audience. That's typically how it works. It's probably that way in written media, I would imagine. But Tucker right there is saying, look, I gave the finger to everybody, and you can't really expect to stay in a corporate media job when you tell everybody, when you're calling everybody out, and you're basically really against the mainstream narrative that's always been out there. So, good for him for sticking to his principles. And look, at the end of the day, the guy's not hurting. He's financially very well off, making millions of dollars. For some of us that ended up leaving our jobs or were fired from the jobs because of not being able to say what we wanted to say, or being censored or edited in some way, many of us did not have, cushions of millions of dollars to fall back on. Tucker luckily does. Good for him. But it looks like we'll never really know the true reason why Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News. It could have been entirely had nothing to do with opinions at all. It could have very well been about loss of advertising dollars, and just when they did the math, they figured, well, we make a lot of money off of him, but we also lose a lot of money off of him. We could put somebody in his slot that maybe makes less money for us, but we also pay less. And so when you actually do the math, we make more with this other person, even though that person's not as popular as Tucker Carlson. Sometimes it just can come down to a math equation like that. And unfortunately, we will not know, but good for Tucker Carlson for sticking to his principles, even in times, of course, I didn't agree with him on everything, but it's nice to have people who are honest, and it's nice to hear that he was honest and that they were good to him and they let him say what he wanted to say until they didn't. And that was my experience. That's the experience of many other people as well. And that's just the nature of the beast. And you just never know. In media, in this gig, you never know when you're suddenly cut off the air. The joke in radio was always, congratulations for getting hired, don't buy a house. Because you don't know how long you have this job for. Well, guys, the search for the perfect gift is over. I've got the most genius stocking stuffers for everyone on your list. CBD. from cbdistillery.com. Stuff their stockings with CBD for better sleep, or give the runner on your list the gift of less pain after exercise. And wouldn't a calmer mind be perfect this holiday season for yourself? CB Distillery has you covered with their full range of carefully formulated CBD and plant-based solutions. CB Distillery's healing plant compounds are made with the highest quality, clean ingredients, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors or preservatives, and with over 2 million customers and a 100% money-back guarantee, CB Distillery is the source to trust. So this year, give the gift of a calmer mind, better sleep, and less pain after exercise. And with code KIM, you can stuff all of their stockings for 20% off. So visit cbdistillery.com and enter the code KIM for your discount. No prescription is required. That's cbdistillery.com, promo code KIM for 20% off, cbdistillery.com.